Welcome to today's session. Um, I thought it would be a really lovely beginning to have a wise quote from the internet about breathing, because there's an emphasis on breathing in today's session. So here is the quote. When you own your breath, nobody can steal your peace. Was thinking about something like that because one of my students told me that in an upset in the family, that she went and meditated for about 30 minutes and then came back into um, communicating with the family. And she said it made all the difference. So I think sometimes if we just do that with our breath, even though we can't necessarily steal away to change the atmosphere, um, that makes a big difference. So in today's session, we're going to do something, I call it circumferential breathing, which is breathing in all directions, so front, back, and sides, into our breathing centers. And we'll do that to begin with in a seated position on your mat, probably propped up onto a bolster or a folded blanket. So let's do that. Let's go to the mat. So when we sit for meditation and for breathing, as nearly as possible, we want to be sitting on our sitting bones. And that seat, whether it's cross-legged or sitting in hero pose, virasana, we want our knees to be lower than our hips. So that's why we sit up, propped up. And besides that, just rest your hands onto your legs and lean out a little bit. And then see if you can walk your sitting bones back just that little bit further. And then allowing the spine to elongate. Where your hands are resting onto your legs, relax your elbows and just let them drop. Then either closing your eyes or just looking in a downward direction, start to observe your breath. We don't want to change it immediately. We just want to notice the pattern of our breathing. Relax your shoulders, relax your facial features. And gradually, over a few rounds of breathing, allow the breath to build up a little bit of momentum. And bring your hands to rest on the sides of your waist. And feel the breath, when you breathe in, expand out to the side body and to the back waist as well. And all round, kind of circular breath. And breathing out and breathing in into that low part of the torso. Bring your hands up a little higher so you're in the line of the lower ribs or the diaphragm, and practice a few breaths, opening the breath out to the side ribs and the front ribs and the back ribs. And then finally, bring your fingertips up to your collarbones, maybe a little bit out to the side, and draw the breath on the inhalation all the way to the top of your chest. And breathing out, there's a downward movement of the breath. Breathing in, that expansion, front, back, and sides. Sometimes this area is called the thoracic diaphragm. And then go on and let your hands rest onto your legs again. And let's breathe in a longer breath from the bottom of your torso to the top of your torso in that circumferential way, all round breath, without straining or stressing over it. And then exhaling from top to bottom. Feel the potential for expansion, and then not contraction so much as just release on the exhalation. On your own, just do 3 more rounds like that, where the breath is full, expansive, and releasing in equal measures. And in a moment, we'll move on to the warm-up part of today's session. So gently opening your eyes and coming to lie on your back. With your legs bent and your feet on the floor. And settle in, nuzzle your sacrum into the floor, the upper part of your back, your shoulder blades, and leave your hands onto your abdomen. And discover the breath in that circular way, like the chest and the abdomen is barrel-shaped, and feel the breath into your back body when you inhale and when you exhale. Let's bring a little movement to the base of the spine, and we'll pay attention there to the sacrum. When you inhale, inflate the abdomen, and on the exhalation, deflate the abdomen. Inhaling fully, but without adding any stress. And exhaling completely all the air out of that abdominal area. And what happens for me here is that there's a little movement, like a nodding of the pelvis, inhaling and exhaling, that very slight movement at the base of the spine. And if you tune in a little bit more, you might notice that there's an influence of the breathing onto the pelvic floor. And then let's go of the focus on the breathing at the moment, to the extent that we have, and concentrate on, have your arms by your side, press your palms down, on working into the dorsal thoracic, press the shoulder blades into the floor, or I should say the shoulders, and then release. Press the tips of the shoulders towards the floor, and release. Just waking up the upper part of the body, and releasing. And then let's take the knees towards the chest, the feet off the ground, the shin bones are relaxed, the feet are relaxed, and just take hold at the front of the knees. For what we call apanasana, working with that downward movement of energy, take the exhalation and draw the thigh bones towards your chest, and then inhale, push away. Find a good rhythm for the movement of the breath, inhaling and exhaling, with a little bit more emphasis on the outflow of the breath. that downward energy into the organs in the abdominal pelvic region. Right? And then one more inward movement, and then exhale and both feet on the floor. Moving on to a really lovely stretch for the lateral body, which opens up the sides of your waist, the sides of your lungs. So extend your right arm overhead. Extend your right leg away from your right arm. Right leg straight, right arm straight, and then stretch on the inhalation those limbs away from each other. Pause and consolidate, and inhale and stretch again. Exhale, there's a little rebound, and inhale that strong stretch. Keep your right foot flexed, and you'll get just the beginning of a hamstring stretch. Right, well done. And then bring your arm down, your leg in, and let's go left leg. Extend left leg, right, left arm, away from each other on consecutive inhalations. When we work into the tissues and stretch them into this fashion, we're working with the fascia, the tissue that binds the muscles, and sometimes that is the reason for tightnesses in the muscles themselves. So one more inhalation, exhalation, bring that arm down by your side, and the left foot on the floor again next to its mate. Pause. Let's take Setu Bandha, the little bridge movements for the whole of your spine, if you like to work in this fashion. Press your feet down, and then tilt the pelvis up just a little. Let's say that was an inhalation to lift, and then come down on the exhalation. Let's go again. And over several of these pelvic lifts, we might increase the height of the pelvis and see if you can work with the backs of the thighs and the buttock muscles more with the arch of the back. So we're taking support from the lifting muscles, hamstrings and glutes, to lift up and lower down. Let's just do one more and hold the elevated position. Press on the inside of your feet so the knees track straight. And then see if you can bring a little bit more stretch from the frontal hips to the front of your knees. Notice if you're clenching your buttocks and release some of that pressure. It's probably often overdone. And then imprint your spine very slowly onto the mat as you return right to the sacrum and then yield to the support of the mat. Beautiful. And speaking of hamstrings, I have a yoga strap next to me, and I'm going to use it for the next exercise. So let's start with the right leg, bend it into your chest, slip the belt over the ball of your foot, and begin to extend that leg up towards the ceiling. I've got the belt onto the balls of the feet, so not so much in the arch of the foot, but my foot is still flexed. That will give me better extension from my buttock bone to my heel. And especially if I exhale now and press up against the resistance of the belt. And then release. Exhale, press up, And at the same time, the femur, the thigh bone, is well down towards the floor. Make sure that you're not lifting the buttock or the thigh bone away from the floor. And pressing up. Good. And then releasing. All right. Let's take a side movement. So take up a hold onto the belt with just your right hand. Let your left knee drop to the left side. That left leg is still bent, and the knee drops out to the side, like Setubandhasana, but just on one side. And then take the right leg right for opening through the inner thigh muscles. And as you do this, adjust the weight onto the back of the pelvis so you're neither tilting right or left. And you're just right in the center of the back pelvis. Bring the leg straight up. Bring that left knee up, that pointing towards the ceiling, and then slip the belt off of your right foot. Hold at the back of your thigh. Give it a little bit of support, and circle your right foot. Circle in the other direction, and maybe even give it a little bit of a shake out. All right, right foot onto the floor, and we're ready to start on the left side. Pop the belt on. Begin to extend that leg up. Depending on your hamstring suppleness, you might keep a slight knee bend. Feel the heaviness of the thigh bone back into its socket. And at the same time, I've got a two-hand grip onto the belt and pressing up against the pull down of the belt. Press up and pull down at the same time. And release. Exhale, and then there's that lengthening in a downward direction too, and an inhale and release. Go one more time and press up. Press the thigh bone down. Let it go. Take up the belt into your left hand. Drop your right knee to the right side. Take your left leg at an angle, a diagonal angle out to the left side. You want to feel the stretch equal on both thighs, not one dominates, and the weight pressure on the back of the pelvis is even, right pelvis, left pelvis. Beautiful. And then lifting that leg back to the vertical, take the belt off and hold the back of the leg and do your ankle circles. Basically, you're circling with all of your toe bones, including your toes, including your foot bones. And then release that foot to the floor. Pause. And let's come over onto an all fours kneeling position. Double your mat up if you need a little bit more support underneath your knees, or you can put a folded blanket there. So here is the all fours position. Open your hands. Your hands are your main support here. All your fingers stretched, your thumbs stretched. And then let's just ease back a little bit. So increasing the flexion at the knee and warming them up. And then ease your way forward and leading with your chest. And we'll go back and forth like that. When you bring your hips back, there's more pressure onto your knees. When you bring yourself forward, more pressure onto your hands. And then hold your position in what we call neutral spine. As nearly as you can tell, the spine is straight and the neck and the head straight with the rest of the spine. And then from here, let the spine dip between your shoulder blades. And then lift the shoulder blades up towards the ceiling and round your shoulders. Let's go back and forth between those two movements. Not so much dipping in the lower back when you're dropping the spine between the shoulder blades. So keep a little abdominal control with your navel moving towards your spine. And then finally, find neutral again. You can't see your back, so you're just using your body sense that we're cultivating through yoga to arrive at a straight spine. And then balancing your weight just onto your hands, onto your left knee. Lift your right knee off the floor and extend the right leg behind you. Keep your hips level, so you're going to drop the right hip probably a little bit and lift the left hip. And then replace your right knee, balance your weight on the forelimbs again, and then lift your left knee a little and extend that left leg behind you. If you're ready to now, as you come back to balancing on your hands and your knees, let's make that a stronger movement by bending the knee into the chest. So right knee lifts, right knee towards your chest, and bowing your head towards your right knee, extend it out away from you. Look out towards the front of your mat, bend the knee in again, and extend the leg. Work with your breath. Let's exhale in and inhale out and returning right knee to the floor. I was tilting a little bit and emphasizing one side, so let's be mindful of staying even on our hands, even on our knees. Lift your left knee and now exhale, bring that knee towards you. Inhale, extend that leg away. We're just extending the leg no higher than your hip. If in fact you go that high, it doesn't matter how high the leg is, and just we're working towards extending it. Exhale, knee in, inhale, leg out. And replacing the both knees onto the floor. And we're going to move on from here into downward facing dog pose. So let's set ourselves up well. Tuck your toes under. Lift your knees a little off the floor. Lift your upper back up towards the ceiling. And then as we do, lifting the hips and stretching through the shoulders for downward facing dog pose. Let's not hold it. Let's return to ground. And just before you bring your knees to the floor, hover a little bit and see how much you can straighten and strengthen your arms here. And then knees down, front of the feet flat on the floor, and ease your buttocks back. You did this earlier. See how far you can take your buttocks back towards your heels. Keep your elbows up. Keep the arms extending away from you. Then let's come forward. First, neutral spine, tuck your toes under, lift your upper back and your navel up to come into downward facing dog pose. Stretch away. Then bending your knees, starting to bend your knees to the floor. Hover for a moment, just a few centimeters off the floor. See if you can straighten more through your elbows. Use your core muscles here. It really helps to lift up through the low belly. And then drop your knees. Feet flat on the floor and coming back. Buttocks towards your heels. As much or as little as you can do here. Let's do one more dog pose. Come forward, your all fours kneeling. Tuck your toes under. Hover again. Just take a couple of breaths there with your knees just slightly off the floor. And then lifting all the way up into downward facing dog pose. Let's give yourselves a nice shoulder stretch here. So step your feet out wide.
my little toe and my outer heel on the edge of the mat, right foot, left foot. And then bend your knees, lift your heels high, and as you pike your buttocks up towards the ceiling, give yourself a, well, at the moment it's an exaggerated for me shoulder stretch, but I feel like I need that as much as you want. And then step your feet closer to each other and take a walk forward or walk your hands back. Good. Come up in a gentle way and your arms loose by your side and all the way up to standing. All right. Let's work on our balance. In every session for myself, I like to work on just generally on balance. Just seems like something that we need to enjoy other yoga poses too. So I've just moved off of my mat, so I'm standing onto the carpet. And from here, Tadasana. So standing with your feet a little bit apart and find that level of comfort for your sacrum and your pelvis. When your legs are a little bit apart, then you have more space there. Your arms just loose by your side. Relax your shoulders. And ease your weight forward towards your forefoot. As I do this, I feel like my toes start to clench onto the floor, just to keep my balance. And then what's the balance as you ease your trunk back over your heels? So you're leaning back into your heels. And then how about if you go to the side and lean one direction and then lean the other direction? And having explored those different directions, now what is it like to arrive in a centered position, feeling centered physically, and balancing your weight as much as possible on your 2 feet, the forefoot and the heel? Release your shoulders that little bit more if that's possible, and give your hands and your wrists a shake out, so no tension there. Tadasana, soften behind your knees. Just feel the hamstrings release somewhat and the buttock muscles as you do that. All right, so let's move on to another side body stretch. So let's take right arm up and extend that right arm overhead. And where it's extending from is from your right leg and your right foot. Keep the balance of weight on both feet and then reach. At this point, you might feel where you were working with that circumferential breath in the side of your rib cage, especially on that right waist, and stretch away. And then lower that arm. And let's wake up that other side, and the left arm comes up. The right shoulder is still relaxed, and you're reaching. And it's kind of a, what do you call it? Push-pull. So as though you're being pulled up by your left wrist and down through your left foot. And then release that side. From here, and in that spirit of balancing, let's lift your toes. You might have momentarily had a look to see where they were, but see if you can keep your gaze forward and just lift all of the toes, including the little toe. Replace them onto the floor. Good. Feel when you bring your toes back down that you can extend them and then lift them all over again. Little toe too.
and toes down and stretching forward. And third time. And have you recruited your hamstring muscles or your buttock muscles to do that? And did you need to? And then all of your toes back onto the floor again. All right, and then let's lift your right heel and lift your left heel and lower your right heel and your left heel. Left heel lifted up, right heel, lower left heel and right heel. Right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left. I do get mixed up along the way, so what you should feel is kind of a rocking movement through your toe bones and your foot bones. And maybe pace it a little bit more. Just having a nice stroll in this kind of nonchalant way, side to side. That's good. And then bring that all to a halt. Now that you've awakened those bones, let's come up onto a rise and both heels up. As you can see, there's a challenge to balance here. Good. Make sure that you're breathing. I'm reminding myself. And then lower your heels. We'll do this one more time. Keep your weight towards the inside of your feet. So your big toe bone, right foot, left foot, stays in contact with the floor as much as you can as you come up onto your rise. And slowly lower down. Give your feet a little bit of a shake out. We'll continue. So, let's say stepping your right foot forward a little bit in front of your left foot and check that you still have the space between the tops of your thighs. So you're not going to cross over your feet. And then rock a little forward. Lift your back heel. Rock back. Lift the front of your front foot. And then let's go back and forth. See if you can get a sense of all the bones of your feet. You're giving them a kind of massage. And then more and more as you do this, see if you can find the balancing point in the center where one heel is up and one forefoot is up. And if we can be very, challenged here, accomplished I was going to say, but challenged for sure, then find the place in the middle where one is up, the other is up, and you're just hanging there in the middle. And then happily lower the feet and step left foot forward, right foot back. All right, let's see, we have a baseline. We kind of know how that worked. Let's see what it's like on this side. And that's rocking forward and back. And then hesitating for just a moment in the center where both one forefoot is up, one heel is up. And then let's see if we can hold it in the center. I notice I'm trying to do it with my fingers and my leg muscles. All right, and then bring both feet to the floor. Step one foot next to its mate. And let's see how that might have had a salutary influence on our standing poses. So let's come back onto our mat. And at some point you might need a block, so have one of these yoga blocks handy. And let's stand on the right side of the mat. In Tadasana. Bring your hands onto your hips. And you're going to do a step out to the center of the mat where your legs are about, a meter apart. And it looks like this. Just that simple. And then flex that left knee a little bit and step back to Tadasana. Do your step out, hold it there, and in that position, balance the weight between the 2 feet. So at first I had more weight onto my right leg. Now I'm balancing the weight between them. Flex your left knee a little bit and step back to Tadasana. And the weight's divided and you're supported by both feet. And then let's do our step out. It's a little spring in your knees as you step out. Beautiful. And then we're going to turn our feet to the left. Turn your right foot in a little bit. Turn your left foot out 90 degrees. And once again, we're right in the center. The torso is right in the center of the pelvis, and the weight's divided evenly, right foot and left foot. Keep your hands onto your hips. Bend your right leg. And then let's warm up the groin and the knee a little bit by alternating straightening and bending. Nice smooth movement. And you can keep reminding yourself to keep your weight even on the both feet. Good. Hold the bent leg position now. You might even check it out, the patella in a direct line over the ankle. And then open up the right groin towards the right knee. Do a lean out. So hinge from the top of your right thigh and lean out over your right thigh bone, left thigh bone, I should say. We're going to the left. And then rest your elbow just above your knee with your palm turns upwards. Good. Hold it there. Adjust your weight on both feet again. Feel like the stretches back into your right heel, down into your left heel. Add the arm stretch and extend your right arm up towards the ceiling. Reach for the ceiling. We did our warm up with these stretches, these arm stretches. Turn your palm and extend that arm overhead. So right arm extending towards the left side. Feel your balance of weight on your 2 feet again. Lift your tailbone. Good. Now you're going to do a push off like you did when you were doing your step outs. And let your top arm bring you up on an inhalation and all the way up. And arms out wide to the side. Reach the tips of your fingers, hands to your hips. Turn your feet directly forward so there's no turnout on them. All toes pointing forward. And step back to join your feet on the right side. And let's go to the other side of the mat. So here we are, and in Tadasana, feel the elbows, joints relaxed, the back of the knees slightly relaxed. Observe your breathing. Relax your shoulders. And then bring your hands up onto your hips, and let's do that step out towards the center of the mat, about a meter's distance. and stepping out. Beautiful. And stepping back. There's a little spring in the knees as you step out. And then stepping back. We're going well here. All right, and then last time here as we step out, take pause, balance the weight between the 2 feet, bring that sense of awareness onto your right foot, and then turn your left foot in a little bit, turn your right foot out 90 degrees for Parsva Konasana on this side, and let's do that gliding movement for your knee, and a little lunge of that knee and straightening. Keep your shoulders relaxed. And we'll take the steady position, the knee bend over the right ankle. Lean and hinge from the top of your thigh and rest your right arm onto your right knee or just above your knee. Good. Now find your weight back through the back leg here. Anchor that back leg. So your weight might be predominantly on the lunge foot. Take your left arm up towards the ceiling and then create a reach right to the finger pads. Turn your palm towards the right side and extend your arm. Away from your left leg, anchor that left foot. Right? And then we're going to come up with the help of the top arm, reach that arm up towards the ceiling, bring the weight back equally onto both feet, and coming all the way up, turn your feet to center, bring your hands onto your hips, and step back, Tadasana. Good. So there might be a little fluctuation as you come back to Tadasana. Find your samastiti, it's called in Sanskrit. You're steady standing on 2 feet. Relax your shoulders. Soften at the back of your knees. Very good. Let's take Parsvattanasana. So this one, we want to be facing the short end of the mat. Let's see, I'll face this way. Good. And in your Tadasana, without giving it short shrift, we'll take a little time there. Stretch your toes. Feel on your feet the kind of outline of your foot all around the edges of your feet. And then step left foot back. Lean into your back foot. Feel the weight there. And as you press the foot, feel your hamstrings engage and that buttock muscle. Then bend the front knee, step forward. Let's step back again. Let your weight come onto your back foot as much as your front foot, and then step forward. This is a balancing act all by itself, isn't it? And then take your left foot back. And find the steady balancing on the front foot by pressing on the right foot big toe and the inner heel. Divide the weight equally between the 2 feet. And keep your hands onto your hips, and let's do a hinging forward from the top of that right thigh that takes us, maybe a quarter or halfway towards the floor. Press into your feet, front and back foot, and unhinge and come up. You're going to gravitate and turn a little bit towards your right leg as we hinge forward again. Good. Take as much of a knee bend as you need here in that forward bending, and then both feet solid and coming up again. And this last time we'll add the arm movement to what we're doing. And that gives us a little distance from our center of gravity. So as you raise your arms up, turn your palms forward, and then see if this works for you. In stability, as you extend forward, press onto the inside of your right foot. And just at the very end, bring your hands down onto your right leg. Pause there and find that deep crease at the top of your right thigh. Draw the right buttock bone back and up. Lift your tailbone. And we'll just stay here for just a moment longer. We won't repeat this pose, so keep making your adjustments, turning towards the right leg, looking down in front of your right foot. And you're going to release from the pose with your arms coming forward and up. If you find that that's a little bit rugged on your back, then keep your hands onto your hips rather than straight forward and up. Press into your front foot. Keep your weight on your back foot as well as you bring your arms forward and up. And exhale, arms down. Well done. And then step up. Tadasana. Take a moment there. Adjust your balance back onto your 2 feet. And let's go second side and step your right foot back. We might have a few goes with that and see how we can have a soft landing there. And lean back into your right foot. Step it forward. Get your balance. Step it back. Get your balance. Lean back into your right foot. And we'll move on from here in forward bending. Keep your hands onto your hips. Take a bow and towards the left leg with a little rotation there. Draw the top of the left thigh back. Deepen that crease without bowing your back. And then inhale and come up. Take another bow. And all the way up. And your weight's into your back leg too. And let's add the arm movement if you want to do it in this manner. Otherwise, keep your hands onto your hips. And reach up. Inhale. Reach out. And then possibly downwards, holding your shin bones. Now keep your weight on the inside of your left foot, big toe and inner heel. Keep your weight on your back foot, outer heel, little toe side of your foot. Draw the left sitting bone up and lift your tailbone. Press into your left foot, flex your left knee. I hope I said that on the other side. And bring your arms forward and up. And exhale down, stepping forward, and finding your balance of weight on both feet. Let's do one more of the classic standing poses called Prasarita Padattanasana, or in some circles, wide leg forward fold. So let's just be in the middle of the mat, facing the long end of the mat in a wide position. Maybe widening the heels a little bit more than the little toes. And it could be a nice movement for you to have your block there to rest your hands onto when you come into your forward fold. Or I'm just going to take my hands down to the floor. Rest your hands onto your hips. Find your weight through both feet, inner and outer feet, inner and outer heels, and then fold forward from the bottom of your torso, top of your thighs. Lift your tailbone, lift your buttock bones. Draw the low belly up into the body and bring your hands onto that upright block or onto the floor. consider as you lift your chest, drawing it forward. And in a moment, if it's there for you, and for the last part of this pose, walk your hands back or stay up on the block so that your spine is lifted and level with the floor. But if you can walk your hands back or come down off your block and have your hands down, then you're releasing your head down. It just hangs heavily, the back of your neck to the crown of your head. You can nod your head a little more forward, lift your shoulders. Good. And that's a lovely pose. And walk your hands forward. Look at your feet. And this time with a little planned choreography, you're going to walk your heels and toes in alternately. Heel, toe, heel, toe, until your feet are the distance for Tadasana. Soften your knees, and when you come up, have your arms just loose by your side, and your head comes up last. And up to standing. All right, and we'll leave the standing poses now and come to lie on your mat in the prone position, that is, on your belly. And I think we often have an instinct to bend the elbows and fold the hands and rest the head onto the hands. So that's a good starting position. And from there, do a little bit of nuzzling the frontal hips into the ground with a shake out of your buttocks and just a rock side to side. Relax your shoulders. Release the sternum towards the floor. So soften those muscles around the lungs and the heart. And for the sake of understanding our breath a little bit more, see if you can feel your breath as you're lying prone. And in this position, the lungs have a little bit more space at the back than they normally do. So you might feel, in particular, the expansion of the back of the lungs. On every inhalation, there is that widening, and then on the exhalation, a little release. As well, and in observing that breath in that circumferential way, feel the movement through the lower torso. And once more, you might feel that slight nodding through the pelvis. On the inhalation, the back waist widens, then it narrows. And the very base of the spine, the coccyx, in that nodding movement. Very slight. And then finally the pelvic floor. Do you observe there? And we're so well set up here, so we'll do a small back bend, which is cobra. Bring your forehead to the floor and releasing your hands and placing them underneath your shoulders. In this manner, the elbows are lifted and snug into the side of your body. So just because we can bring more awareness to back bending here, keep the hands a little lifted away from the floor and feel what happens in the shoulder blades. And then release the hands down. And now we'll do 2 movements. Lift your hands and feel the shoulder blades again. They move into the center of your spine, and you've got a nice opening through the dorsothoracic. And now lift your head as well. Still looking down, your hands are up, your head is up. And then press your hands solidly into the mat and lift up. Keep those elbows close in. Relax your chest muscles. Press your pubic bone down, just downward, not backwards. And then also lift your low belly. And then coming back down and lengthening as you come back to the ground. And let's go again. And pressing your hands down. See if you can feel the shoulder blades again, supporting the lungs and the heart at the front by moving into the center spine. Come up as much or as little as you like. Soften the muscles around the front lungs and heart. You might want to tilt your chin upward or lift your gaze upwards at least. Draw the low belly back again. And then ease forward and down. And fold your elbows and your hands underneath your forehead again, resting. And bend your legs, one leg and then the other. When we do bow pose, we almost always get more lift in the front body, in the front of the torso, than in the thighs. So let's try working on the challenge of lifting the thighs away from the floor. So your upper body's passive, your head's still resting down, and then flex your feet and lift the thigh bones to whatever extent that you can, and your shin bones perpendicular to the floor, and pushing up into your heels and lifting up. And then rest your thigh bones down again and let your feet fall back. Let's go another round. You might not have made a lot of headway there. I like to have a few practices here and hope for improvement. Bend your legs. Turn your feet so that they're parallel with the ceiling. And lift your thigh bones. Push up through the big toe and the inner heel and lift up. Feel your hamstrings, the back of the thighs, and the glutes switching on. And then release and let your legs drop back. And now let's do a back release. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders. Lift up your head and your chest. And then do a push back towards your heels. I was noticing lying on my stomach had an influence on my voice tightening up. So I don't know what was going on there. So bringing your buttocks towards your heels to whatever extent your knees will allow. And then prop yourself up onto your forearms, your elbows back towards your knees, and close your hands into soft fists. Stack your hands up one on top of the other and rest your head onto your folded hands. Relax your shoulders and take a couple of deep breaths, or more than a couple of deep breaths. Every exhalation, allow your weight to fall off of your shoulders and shoulder blades dropping out.
So it'd be very good to balance the work that we did in the whole of the class with a movement to rotate our spine. And we're going to do that in a particular way with a bolster or a folded blanket underneath our heads. I have this small bolster here. So we take up a side lying position where the head supports the side of our head. And in side lying, the legs are bent with a right angle at our hips and at the back of the knees. So take a little bit of time to get yourself into this position so that you're cozy and comfortable. And when you're on your side, both arms are extended out in front of your chest, straight at the elbow. And then find your breathing interesting, how you can feel your breath a little bit more on the sides of your rib cage, maybe here, with that contact with the floor, and the side of your waist, your hip. And then let's do an arm lift here. So begin to take the top arm in a straight arm position up towards the ceiling. And perhaps you can go back behind the line of the body. We'll bring the arm up and back to starting position. I'm a little crowded here at the wall, so I'm going to move farther forward. So the top arm, if you have some problem with your shoulder, you could rest the tips of your fingers onto your shoulder and reduce the length of the lever of the arm and just do it with bent elbow. Otherwise, we're bringing the arm up and back over, possibly behind the line of the body, and then back to start. The head rotates too if you let your line of vision follow your raised hand. And we're bringing this rotation just into the upper part of our back as much as possible. And one more go like that. And the head rotates and you're looking back. And as we finish, let's prepare for the second side. And flip your position over to lie on the other side. Right angle for your legs in the bent leg position, knees and hips. And then startup position, you're well supported, your head and your neck with your headrest. And then take a few rounds, bring that arm up first and then back behind the line of the body. And it's very likely that you find a breathing pattern over several breaths that lets you open in the least stressful way as possible. And take one more arm stretch. And then after you've done that, then have your arms back where you started. So I've got one hand resting on the other. And feel into the side ribs again. Inhaling, the ribs move a little bit closer to the floor, and then they release. All right? And then when you're ready, and maybe using similar props, lie yourself out for Shavasana, for the yoga relaxation. And take your time to lie onto your back. I always like to start with my legs bent. I find that gives me the best back release. And then as you decide to extend the legs out, you might have them resting onto a bolster or keep the bent leg position. That's up to you. Let your arms rest at a little distance from the side of your body and probably palms uppermost. And take a moment, maybe do a little hip rock in this position until the weight falls more evenly onto the back of the pelvis, onto even the heels, right heel, left heel. And then press your arms a little bit and retract your shoulders again, shoulder blades again. Maybe lift them slightly off the floor. When you replace the dorsal thoracic onto the floor, allow it to broaden, the back chest wide and soft. And then I encourage you to rest your hands onto your torso if that feels like a nice connecting movement for you. And now we're going to allow the breath to become increasingly quiet. The breath more and more subtle as it moves within the body. We're still aware of it. Of the vital life force of the breath that we associate and we sometimes call prana. As the breath becomes very subtle and almost imperceptible, then our awareness needs to become finer and finer tuned. And you might want to stay longer, linger longer here. That's up to you. But if you feel prepared to get going again, being active again,
Then let's do that in slow stages, and first bending up your legs. And taking all the time that you need to come up to a seated position as you're ready. And bringing the hands together, center of your chest. When I was a novice in learning yoga, and I was told to bring my hands into this gesture, and then the explanation of the meaning of it was that it translates, we think of the word namaste, translates into the divine spark within me, salutes that divinity in you. So let's see if we can get a feel for that and tune into the goodness of our own hearts, the warmth of our own hearts. In a way that allows that to extend out to each of us, to all of us, to every one of us. So we say, Namaste. Thank you.